Hey, hey. Hi, guys. All right. So let's get into part two here. If you guys didn't see part one, you'll want to watch that first. There's a free link there in the description box. You can watch part one and then bounce back over here because I'm just going to leap right in. We're going to stay on our feminine's story here for just a moment before we bounce back over to him. So she's almost over this. It was a difficult experience. If you watch part one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She decided to turn the page, she decided to move on, right? And she's pretty much over him and this whole thing, right? We see the finish line ahead. I would argue that she kind of looked like somebody who was halfway over it, even right at the beginning. Five of Wands. There's just the unknown of like, I wonder what his problem was. I wonder, what was going on in his head that, she does ponder that a little bit. I wonder what it was. Why? Because it's like she knows he wanted to be with me, but then he ran from me. So I wonder what it was that got him all tangled up. She doesn't necessarily know um that he was obviously what we saw in part one is he ran back to try to fix something with an ex, and that was a major mistake and a very big regret because he's actually in love with her. She knows this. She knows on one hand, I know he did love me. And so I still, if although I'm pretty much over the whole thing, I mean, because obviously he had his problems, like whatever was going on up in his head, I don't know. But he did love me, and I do know that part. So she's basically saying something happened in his brain. But I gotta say, I'm positive that what he showed me was actually real. But still, that's a him issue, not a me issue. Can't deal with people. Yeah, she has the strength to just say, she walks on from this with her head all held high. She is not some, poor tragic character who is going to be devastated and it's like, oh, but he was the love of my life. If anything, she kind of is the one saying, I know he was actually truly in love with me, and yet he still botched everything and ran from me. I mean, that's he'll probably have some regrets over all that. But she stands here in her calm and in her power. I don't feel like she has any regrets. It's like, hey, all you can do is be present, make the decisions that you feel are right for you. And if other people botch stuff, that's on them. And I love seeing her in this graceful power and this comfort zone about all this. And I also love the fact that she's not pulling any punches. She's not pretending like, oh my God, he never loved me. He just used me. She's like, nah, he psyched out, but I know that he loved me. And that kind of sucks to be him, because whatever happened up here for him, I don't know, but he botched something that was a good thing or that could have been a good thing between us. That's a pretty impressive and accurate message on her part, right? Nowhere does it say that now she's like, oh, I just wish he'd come back. No, if anything, she keeps showing that she's carrying on moving forward. Let me go back over to him because we saw that he was spying on her like heavily. And what he saw is exactly what we just said. He sees her moving forward in life. He knows that she is letting him go completely, that she's totally moving on, but he is head over heels in love with her. King of Cups, possibly more so than he ever was. Let me ask, what happened when you went rushing back, though, to that Queen of Wands? Because they went back to an ex after starting something with this, possibly Leo feminine. I've called her the temperance angel just because that's who she started out as in part one. But remember, this story, it's about consequences. It's about the bad choices. It's about the game playing. I don't think he was trying to play games exactly, but he sure wasn't. There was no part of this that says that he handled things in any kind of a mature way, because he basically started strong with her, said he was in love with her, offered everything. She started to respond, and then he like straight up disappeared, downgraded to barely texting, if at all, and ran back to his ex, only to discover I'm in love with her, the person I just dumped for my ex, and didn't even have the courtesy to like officially explain it from what I can tell. So let me just ask, what happened when you went running back to your ex? The Tower. Not only was it not a good situation between him and his ex, I think he knew instantaneously that this was a nightmare. We have the Four of Pentacles. It's kind of in a weird, sideways position. It's instantly, I know it's going to sound terrible, but I think it was like, ooh, I don't really want the ex to touch me. What was I thinking? All this time, it's like he was still holding on to something that was unfinished between himself and the ex. But if only he had simply, instead of trying to date our temperance angel, who he actually fell in love with, if he had simply said, okay, I feel like I want to move on and date somebody new, but let me make sure, am I really done with the ex? Maybe I need to still talk to the ex one last time to get some closure. Because I think if he had gone and talked to the ex one last time, he would have seen like there's a repulsion. I don't want to be with the ex. Unfortunately, he did everything in the wrong order, right? He said, I think I'm done with the ex. I'm going to go date somebody new. God, I'm so in love with this new person. Oh my God. What if things could have worked out with my ex? This is working so great with this new person. What if it could have worked better with my ex if I had been this loving and open? Let me rush back to the ex to only then discover almost immediately, this sucks. It sucks with the ex. It always did. It still does. Why did you see her as this Queen of Wands then? Some alluring person. Action of Cups sideways. I think he got game played by her into thinking like, it's so ironic that there's like all of this intrigue here. Okay. That Queen of Wands is wearing this little mask, which could indicate she's not even a Queen of Wands upright. Maybe she really is a karmic, or maybe she has a very spicy and seductive way to make people think that they are crazy about her. And she could be the master game player. She could be the master manipulator. Because this says, even for him, the King of Cups, he's like, I'm not even sure why I thought I should go back to her. We weren't good together when we were together. I honestly was never in love with her. And this isn't even a card of lust. This is a card of, I don't understand why I went back to her, honestly. Sometimes I think it seemed glossy, but there was no substance there, or there's something about, he felt like he should return to her, but not because there was ever love. We have the Chariot. I don't know if she came across as flashy and confident, and if he were with her, he would be flashy and confident too. Okay, so I'm sorry, but this speaks poorly of his character right now. If he ran back to a previous ex, it may have been not for love ever. It may have been because she comes across as somebody who has money, who has fame, and if he is beside her, moving forward with her, he can be in the limelight. And I know this sounds horrible too, but there was even a predetermined thought that I'm going to rush back to my ex, work things out with her, be flashy and powerful, and use her as a ladder to climb into a more prominent position in my own life, and then I'll cut her loose. This is you know what? I'm so glad that he did not end up with the Temperance Angel. This King of Cups has a very selfish behavior. And, in part one, we saw him saying, I can never go back to my Temperance Angel because my reputation is sullied, right? My reputation is no good. Nobody's ever going to see me as an emperor. The people in the Temperance Angel's life, they're going to rally around her and probably hate my guts and say, I better not be trying to get back into her world, because they will only see me as manipulative or tyrannical, or with the emperor sideways. That's not a good character, right? I would argue that is a major trait in them. An emperor sideways can be somebody who does crave power, although they haven't built it themselves. They crave great, like respect, although they haven't done anything to earn it, or they certainly haven't done enough to earn it. And I feel like that is a real weak component of their character. They were in love with our temperance angel, right? That King of Cups energy coming from their heart was real toward her. But even so, the love wasn't enough to overcome their ego that drove them back to the Queen of Wands because and they knew I don't love the Queen of Wands, but I would like to patch things up with her for the sake of the launch. I could launch myself forward. If we were back together, there's something here about fame, fortune, I just need to be seen with her for a little bit. Maybe I need to make contacts like she has in her world, and then we can break up again, and then I can be free of her. And let me just ask, since this is an ugly story, but let me just ask, did you already have the seed planted in your skull that when I break up with her, then I'll go back to the temperance angel? What did you intend with the temperance angel? Inspiration of swords, action of wands. I don't know. This says they knew that they were still going to keep spying on the temperance angel, and they knew that that's the person that they were really attracted to. And that they may even try to still date her. I wonder if that's why they came across as that page sideways, where they never gave her closure. They never actually ended things. They just kind of stopped texting in any meaningful way. They certainly were not operating as the King of Cups. They just like shrunk down all their energy because they rushed back to that ex. But it wasn't to actually have success with the ex. It was to try to gain like clout. And then still they had a secret intention of always leaving the ex anyway. But in the meantime, they were still very hot and, into the temperance angel. And their intentions were, I might still try to get with her on the side or something. I mean, the action of wands is not good. That's player energy. Let me ask, with that Page of Pentacles character, in your own words, why did you go Page of Pentacles sideways? Why did you stop texting? King of Wands, Eight of Wands. Because they were choosing the other path. And they weren't about to admit that. I was trying to instead of quitting the relationship with the temperance angel, they were phasing her out because they were giving all their energy now to be a King of Wands to the Queen of Wands. And that was the path that they were going to take because they wanted to move forward in life. This person craves money and power. I do not even think that they really had real emotions, but let me ask about that. You said that you were a King of Cups. You said it twice, but it's like you realized that you actually did love the temperance angel. But at the beginning, when you said that you were a King of Cups, was that ever true? I'm wondering if they were such a hollow person. It says that no, so this person has a weird ability to, yes, fall in love with somebody, but then also be so incredibly shallow. Yes, they wanted her. They came toward her for a reason. There's a duality to this person. They have a heart. They do. And then they also have this very selfish streak that makes them crave attention and that makes them able to forget about love and just go for ladder climbing and aim for success. And then it's like when that fails, all of the success ladder climbing that they were going to try to do with the Queen of Wands, then it's like their heart is reactivated and they're like, oh my God, why didn't I just have a love match with somebody that I actually did love? Because you are too greedy. You can't just love somebody. Your greed overwhelms your actual ability to love. That's what I see. I do not see this person as a good partner to anybody. And them feeling all this guilt about how badly they messed this up. Honestly, I think that that's a really good thing, because if they had been in the energy that they're in, this very flippant, sometimes they can be really sincere and loving, but then they turn into Gollum, and it's like, my precious, I want money, I want fame. And if there's somebody I can get that with, then I'll dump somebody that I love to go toward, fame. I just don't see how they would have been a good matchup. So it's probably all for the best that they did this disappearing act. But let me go back and say, so what happened? We saw that when they went back to that ex and they decided to become a King of Wands to the Queen of Wands, it was a shit show. Okay. It was a mess. Maybe she's just like they are. Two of Wands, she was eeny, meeny, miny, mo, not really saying that she was going to be with them again. That Queen of Wands played games with them about whether or not she wanted them back. So they dumped somebody that they actually did have love for, went full on greed mode, ran back to an ex, only to be played with by the ex. I'm not so sure that I do want you back. I'm not sure what I would want with you. I'm not sure. I'd have to figure this out. With the Two of Wands, they were kept on a yo-yo. It's like, maybe I will, maybe I won't. And maybe that is why they finally had the opportunity to learn something about what game playing really is all about. I mean, we started the storyline out in part one with consequences. They have hit those consequences. They made terrible choices. They played games. And then in turn, how perfectly fitting is it that the Queen of Wands played games with them? They got a taste of their own medicine. And that ultimately is probably the best, karmic lesson anybody could ever get, is if you do that to somebody and they turn around and they do that to you, this is the way it all goes down. And they had to sit and stew and think about this. And maybe that's why this entire story is even playing out. Maybe that is why, because they have had a taste of their own medicine and it has really hit home. Once upon a time, they could have simply been with the Queen of Cups, the person that they loved. They said twice, I wanted to be the King of Cups. I really loved her. But boy, you didn't show love. You didn't treat anybody like you loved them. You were selfish. You dumped her to rush back to an ex to try to get clout, not even because you loved the ex, but just because you wanted a very shallow, success in your life. And she was a means to get that, or so you thought. Now you're realizing that Temperance Angel was the Queen of Cups that I loved, the person that I wish I had been with. And that would have been the most important thing, and maybe the most beautiful thing that I could have done with my life, is to be with the person that I felt something for. We have this Ace of Wands, but we still see this lizard energy of, I want her so bad. Like, all they're filled with is, okay, I'm done dealing with the ex. That was a shit show. Now I am just so hungry. I just so much want to be back and have a chance to be in the King and Queen of Cups relationship. But it's over. It is too late. They know this. So, universe, what's our final message for them? Inspiration of Pentacles in the reverse and the Ace of Swords. Look, this is a tough lesson. They very well may realize, like, when I blew it with her, it was over, but my lesson doesn't stop. They may still try to come back into her and just like explain all of this for the sake of, like, not even an apology to her, but to just hear themselves say it out loud, to say, this is what I did. This was the book of life that I wrote for myself, and it's a sucky one. I could see them, because birds are migratory, even though the Ace of Swords is about, like, I've been cut out of her life. The Queen of Cups, Temperance Angel, does not want me. I know that. And I have no business talking to her again, but somehow I have to go back and I have to say something true, because this is what I've realized while I've been in hermit mode. I just feel like he is coming back at some point to explain all of this. I'm not saying it makes any difference. It just says they may have to get this off their chest. Will this make any impact? Two of Swords. It could be that that door is permanently still closed, or it could be that, look, our feminine will have the choice of saying or doing whatever she wants. But my impression is that she's probably moved on. It might just be that this is a very tough lesson for them, because she's moved on, probably meeting somebody else, living her best life, falling in love with somebody else. She didn't waste time wondering about them. It didn't prevent her from moving forward in her life. But you know what? There could still be, if you guys want a part 3 to this, if I see 700 thumbs up, I'll do a part 3 for you guys if you want to see what happens. All right, take care. Bye, guys.